Lord of the Rings, one of the best film trilogies of all time, filled with so many great moments and characters, a well-written story of friendship and different peoples coming together to overcome the greatest of evils. Quite possibly my favourite trilogy of movies and books of all time. A TV show set in the Second Age sounds like a great idea. We get to see so many more unique and fascinating characters as well as flesh out the ones we've seen before. If done well, the struggles of the characters of the Second Age would create some tragic tales that would pull on the heartstrings of most fans and many newcomers. It could enrich the films that we have and delve into the less explored stories of events that led us to that trilogy. Surely a show with this material, a big budget, and great characters from the Legendarium would lead to something as good as that trilogy, or at least something better than the Hobbit trilogy, right?
Do you know why a ship floats and a stone cannot?
This place is so evil, our torches give off no warmth.
There is no curse in Elvish, Entish, or the tongues of men, for this treachery.
Amazon, what the fuck have you done? I suppose I shouldn't be shocked given this era of modern entertainment being about as rancid as an onion left in the cupboard for 5 years. But still, it's quite the accomplishment to shit out a turd so bile-inducing and embarrassing that it makes the Emu Wars look semi-competent by comparison. Anyway, let's see how this totally faithful adaptation of Tolkien's Second Age kicks off.
Nothing is evil in the beginning.
A monologue, huh? Trying to call back to that much better trilogy? Well, don't. You'll be about as close to them as the Disney trilogy was to Star Wars. Perhaps I was wrong. They've decided that opening with little elves having a grand old time is more important than establishing the background for what their story is going to be about. Brilliant! Much more important than kicking everything off with an intro that gets everyone up to speed on where we're at in this timeline. The focus is then drawn to a lonely child crafting something. It's Galadriel, and she's making a paper boat that eventually draws curiosity from the other elf children. One of them, a boy, says,
"You couldn't possibly believe their old scrap will float."
Well, that came out of the blue, you insufferable little twerp. I wonder where this is going to lead.
It's going to sail.
There's no sails on that, and floating and sailing are not mutually exclusive. But hey, Payne and McKay thought it sounded cool. We then see the boat fold open into a swan-like shape, somehow, and sail well enough as little Galadriel smiles proudly. Okay, show, she's talented. Totally not like other girls from media we've seen before. We then see the others following the boat, and this fucking happens.
Stop! Stop, don't! Stop,
Fuck's sake. Those elf kids, I guess, were just so jealous of her. Why are we starting out with this? She proved them wrong. Wouldn't they have been impressed? Guess not. Remember the marketing people. Also, why is she so defensive over this little boat? I mean, it's nice, but is it worth screeching over as though it were your pet turtle they were throwing rocks at? Anyway, the boat is sunk, and our nasty little elf boy says,
Told you it wouldn't float.
how dare he destroy that beautiful work of art of this brilliant young girl. Still, it's not that big of a deal, it's just a bit of paper lost, but I think it's fair for her to be a bit upset. So I wonder what actions she will take that reminds us of who this character is supposed to be, and who she will be. Oh wow, look at that! She tackles him to the ground and tries to punch him. Definitely foreshadowing for what's to come. Before we see the vengeful punch, her brother appears and stops the playground fight before any of these children are hurt. What an intro! We have established Galadriel as an overly sensitive, vengeful outsider that takes action at even the tiniest of slights. Already, this character has about as much in common with Galadriel as an onion has to a lonely ogre.
Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. You get it. We both have layers.
But, for now, the show insists on me calling her Galadriel. We then get a scene with Galadriel and her bro sitting beneath a tree, and, he's probably Finrod Felagund, a good character from the Silmarillion, but I'm calling him Galabro, because that'll be his only lasting legacy soon enough.
Do you know why a ship floats and a stone cannot?
Okay, Let's see where this goes. But I do, actually. I believe the stone is affected by gravity and the ship is affected by how it's constructed. But please, present your answer to the world.
Because the stone sees only downward. The darkness of the water is vast and irresistible. But the ship has a secret. Her gaze is not downward but up, fixed upon the light that guides her.
What? Was this line repurposed from a comedy? Because it certainly got me howling when I first heard it. So, let's follow along with their logic for a second. So ships are fixed upon light, and stones only see down to the darkness. What pointless fluff is this, and why is it being said? Do they want us to think this is because she attacked the kid? How is it relevant to that? Is she supposed to be a ship and float above the impulses of the stone's downward stare to the dark? Why was this said, and what people with supposedly functioning brain cells thought this was something Galadriel and the audience needed to hear?
But sometimes, the lights shine just as brightly reflected in the water as they do in the sky. It's hard to say which way is up and which way is down.
Oh no, it gets worse. Galadriel doesn't know which way's up. First order, I found a possible recruit for you. Seriously though, is this supposed to be setting up a dark streak in Galadriel, the future Lady of Light? Is that going to be her arc, or is she one of those perfect characters that doesn't need any development?
How am I to know which lights to follow?
Seriously, why are you wasting your time with this empty drivel masquerading as deep Tolkienian dialogue? This is about as deep as a puddle of vomit on a mate's carpet after an all-night binge drink. Fucking hell. In Fellowship, we had already established everything about Sauron, his rings of power, and the danger he posed to Middle-earth. And here, we're lingering on conversations that reveal so few traits about these people that we may as well be watching on mute. And also, Galadriel, I think you've got more problems than you realize if you don't know which lights to follow in this strange metaphor. Her brother then whispers something and Galadriel calls whatever he says simple. I have a feeling she's right in one way and wrong in another, given how bloated this fool's words are. How much time do we have before he dies to a werewolf? Because damn, already this is a thin relationship so far. But hey, maybe they'll get into him more later. By the way, he says he won't always be here for her, and when she asks a follow-up question as to why, he gives us this look. How in the stench of the dead marshes is he supposed to suspect such a thing? I don't know if you're aware of this, you damn tater, but you are an immortal. You won't die of old age. At this point, death wouldn't be a thing you'd even think about happening to yourself, especially in Valinor, the Undying Lands. By the way, yes, sure, I know he's going to die. Thank you for having a line of dialogue telling me that this is going to happen, rather than make this person a character I care about so I feel something when it happens.
We had no word for death, for we thought our joys would be unending.
Ugh. How? Don't you hunt and kill things to eat, you bland-faced expositor? Whatever. Again, lofty dialogue meant to elicit emotion no matter how hollow its meaning is. By the way, in the lore, they were in Middle-earth first, before going to Valinor. So, I'm pretty sure people died there. We then see the two trees, not a bad image from afar. Seeing Telperion and Laurelin's lights shine as the suns upon the world did bring me the briefest of smiles as a Silmarillion reader. Either way, as cool as it is to see, it still hurts that this is the first time we see them realized in live action. Shame, it could have been an impactful image for a better show that actually cared about Tolkien's vision, and not an ideology that should have been aborted years ago. Then we get Galadriel's monologue begin at last to kick off the prologue and explain the inciting incidents of the major wars of the First Age. About fucking time we learn the setup for the story of the Second Age.
When the great foe
Morgoth, the great foe. Come on, you're trying too hard. Just say Morgoth. It sounds better as is, your name butcherer. Have to ask, are they going to show Morgoth? They should, considering he's the reason Sauron is even a problem in the first place. But I don't want this amateur theatre production they call an epic fantasy to show him off first. Oh, thank fuck, it's just a shadow. And briefly at that. By the way, cheers for brushing over all the motivations of Morgoth and the meaning behind the two trees. You know, important stuff your average non-book reader should be informed about if it's relevant to this story. Speaking of, very little of what they do show is relevant to this story. It just wastes our time with pretty images, because that's what really matters. Okay, I'm gonna actually be nice for a second. Not a bad way to show Ungoliant's poison coursing through the bark of the trees. But up close their darkening exposes how shit these trees look. In fact, all the up close shots look like CGI straight out of the Mummy movies. You couldn't just get two real trees, film them, and then add the sunlight effects, could you? You had to go for the CGI. Fine. VFX team, if you're gonna do CGI trees that have this sunlight effect, there's this little fantasy game called Elden Ring, and it did a version of these trees better. You have no excuse for not at least matching that. How much is this again per episode? Let's see. What? 60 million. 60 million episode, and you couldn't film two trees and add sunlight effects to the tops, or match what Elden Ring did. You opulent cash burners. Well, maybe it was spent on the costumes, right? Maybe not. Also, sad, no mention of Ungoliant, the real destroyer of the two trees. Hey Amazon, why are you ignoring the successes of a woman? You vile sexists are denying the existence of the mother of spiders. Are you racist towards my Aussie mates? Though my real guess is you don't have the rights to show her off. Which, by the way, you were so desperate for your Game of Thrones Bezos, weren't you? You Lex Luthor cosplayer. That you just had to make a show out of scraps. Well done. We then see the oath of Feanor, I think. But if it is, and Galadriel's brother is Finrod, then they broke canon again. Finrod was outraged at Feanor's ilk, but fuck it, I guess it doesn't matter. At least here their armor looks alright. Oh, look at that! The exit of Valinor looks like two curtains have been drawn back on a stage. Maybe because they chose to have a wall of clouds open up for them to sail through. Oh, jeez. I've read The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, its appendices, The Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, and I have never come across this being a thing. Guess they wanted to be special snowflakes. Either way, it looks retarded.
We left Valinor.
Ugh. Whoever told Morford Clark to do this ugh sound needs to be fired. Again, Valinor. Va-li-nor. It does not make you sound authentic to Tolkien saying it this way. It makes you sound like a child attempting to mimic the noise of a fucking truck engine. Map transitions, or more accurately, I'm sure, time skippers, where no relationships will be allowed to develop through whatever journeys are to occur. Time passing is going to be like the later seasons of Game of Thrones, won't they? Where everyone got access to teleportation technology. Oh look, we have fell beasts and eagles fighting at... Okay, so there's lots of fire, lots of orcs, fell beasts. Is this the Dagor Bragollach Battle of Sudden Flame? If so, where's my boy Glaurung? The Great Gold Worm, the King of Dragons. I mean, if you're going to show it, you may as well show him as well. The battle is alright, despite its departures, though Galabro got very lucky with that loosened arrow and that mosh pit of orcs and elves. Seriously, who was able to pull that shot off? Also, course Payne and McKay, you two just couldn't deliver a stoic elf in battle, could you? He's shouting and seemingly weeping as he's being attacked. No, fuck that! He's being hugged by a very lazy orc. His fucking buddies next to him are braver than him. Even if they are stabbing nothing but thin air. What the fuck is this? Why did you do this, Galadriel? How is it this perfect? How are they all staying put? How did she fucking stack them that high without them collapsing? Why is this here? A far more powerful image to make us empathize with the losses would be to have Galadriel shed a few tears, maybe be surrounded by a sea of corpses, maybe even show us a funeral of these brave warriors. As is, this is just a stupid visual that everyone should howl in laughter at, when it should be reflecting how catastrophic the wars against Morgoth were. Never mind the logic. Look, another pretty visual of dead elves in water with fire burning above. Oh, show. You think showing me pretty things will make me be nice to you? Sorry, you need to be a well-written story first, and already you're faltering. Impressive, I must say, considering we're only a couple of minutes in. Still, This one of Sauron overlooking hordes of orcs is certainly pretty. Shame it is indicative of most modern entertainment these days. Visuals pretty, writing's hideous.
Multiplying ever greater.
What does she mean ever greater multiplying under Sauron? They already would have been in great numbers beforehand. Morgoth had absurd forces of orcs, and even an army of damned Balrogs. Yes, kind viewer, Morgoth had an army of these fiery devils. Seriously, read or listen to an audiobook of the Silmarillion. It can be hard to get through, but you'll get a lot more out of it than this shredded lasagna.
My brother vowed to seek him out and destroy him.
Okay, but he should have died while Morgoth was still in Middle-earth, in a dungeon of Sauron's, during the rescuing of Beren from a werewolf, giving his life so another could be saved. Fuck's sake, I keep forgetting how good we Tolkien fans had it regarding fidelity in adaptations of Middle-earth. When things were changed, they still possessed the spirit of the source material, or at least had the decency to justify the deviations. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. In this instance, no effort was even made. They don't show us how he died, how his body was recovered, or any important information that could paint as clear a picture as the beautiful soul that was Bob Ross.
And marked his flesh with a symbol, one whose meaning even our wisest could not discern.
Right. Why did Sauron mark Galabro after Morgoth's defeat? Wouldn't he want to lie low after the War of Wrath, bide his time, work in the shadows? You know, like he did in those books? Because it's more logical than leaving your mark so someone knows that you survived Balerion's flooding. Why risk that? Oh, that's right, to facilitate plot. Also, Mysterious Sauron mark has a meaning that can't be deciphered. It's not in the books or films, so don't expect an answer, or expect one so basic that makes everyone in this show look like they have the intelligence on par with these demons from the depths. Anyway, Galadriel decides to avenge Galabro after tearing up with the blankest of expressions by hunting Sauron, because the Dark Lord wanted to be a tattoo artist for a day. And we're going to stop right there. Right, I think I have to talk about this prologue for a bit, and I'll be comparing quite a bit to Fellowship's prologue. They have seriously dumbed down everything that kicked off the events of the first stage. There was way more to it than just the darkening of the trees. They were supposed to catch you up on the most important stuff that allows you to understand the state of things after Morgoth's defeat. I suspect many non-book readers likely have the following questions. Where did Morgoth come from? Who is he? Why did he darken the trees? Why did all the elves leave to avenge the trees? What is the significance behind those trees? How was Morgoth beaten? And how does Sauron factor into all of this? But probably the most important one, why should I be invested in any of this? We are told a lot, but we are shown nothing of importance that could create investment for people. I think it could have been done with Feanor, one of the most pivotal figures that kicks off all of this stuff in the first stage. But he's not even mentioned by name here, and he's the reason so many elves, including Galadriel, are in Middle-earth in the first place. But to be honest, I doubt very little of this will even become relevant to the story they want to tell, but this stuff would be relevant to Tolkien's Second Age. Let's put aside all outside knowledge of what they've said and the deliberate changes they've made, and say they wanted to do Tolkien's Second Age properly. What I reckon they should have shown is the creation of the Silmarils, these beautiful jewels that shimmer with the divine light of the Valar, or the demigods of this world, Morgoth's meeting and soon poisoning of Feanor's trust of the Valar, the two falling out over the Silmarils, the jewels being stolen by Morgoth, Feanor's father, High King Finwë, being slain by Morgoth, then the Oath of Feanor, which leads the Noldor Elves, Galadriel's kindred, to leave Valinor in the worst of ways, killing the Teleri Elves in Aman, which eventually leads them to being banned from ever coming back to Valinor. The starting of a war that lasted centuries, and the War of Wrath, which leads to Morgoth's banishment into the Void, and Sauron preparing to beg for pardon from the Divine Valar, but then chickening out and disappearing. This would explain why certain elves can't or won't go back to Valinor, why there are so many orcs around in this world, why the world is still reeling from the damage of the War of Wrath, and why Sauron ran away and hid. Now, much of this is simply here for the sake of context, but regarding the Dark Lord we know, this explains both what led to Sauron's disappearance, and also certain motivations of his that lead him to doing what he does in the Second Age and the Third Age. Because in the books, Sauron starts out wanting to repair the damage Morgoth did, and repair the damage from the War of Wrath. Now, this is a lot, but so too was the info needed to be provided about the Second Age for the Lord of the Rings films. And Philippa Boyens and Peter Jackson managed to do it. The rings being given to all the races was established. Sauron's deception was established. The One Ring was established. His war to conquer Middle-earth was shown. And so too was the War of the Last Alliance and the power of the ring. And more than that, we got to see Elrond and Isildur struggle in the fighting, the latter even losing his father. We got the journey of the ring throughout the centuries till Bilbo's eventual finding of it. All pivotal information we needed to know to understand the characters, events, and state of things in this world. And they're all there. Here, we are told Morgoth came to Valinor, darkened the trees, the elves warred against him, they struggled, he was beaten, orcs spread, and Sauron picked off where he left off, before vanishing. No one is going to understand now why Sauron had to flee, because they didn't show how definitive Morgoth's defeat was. In this version, why wouldn't Sauron just pick up where Morgoth left off? He's clearly got a substantial force, we just have to assume he can't, because the reason he couldn't beforehand was because divinities were active in Middle-earth. Anyway, back to their story.
Year gave way to year. Century gave way to century.
She spent centuries doing this? Fucking hell. Galabro better than her confirmed. He found Sauron quicker. Ooh. Climbing the ice wall looks fake. Not because of the effects or anything, but because she has no emotion on her face. Better get used to that. Anyway, what is this scene's purpose? Is it really just to rip off, pay homage to Game of Thrones? Whatever the reason, that scene was good because it was the culmination of a journey. And there were well-written characters that had no choice but to climb that wall. Here, it's just to show seemingly that Galadriel is better than her elves as she is a better climber. Look at how great and driven she is. Those stupid, lazy elves need to rest, but not our girl Galadriel. By the way, watch how her company stick together during the climbing and how they help each other onto little cliff faces as they progress up. Compare that to Galadriel, who continues climbing so far ahead that she would be unable to help anyone in need should someone strike their pick into a weak sheet of ice. What a good person this is already. What a great commander. Next question, why are they climbing this? Did they really have to go this way to get to wherever they're going? Couldn't they just plan and traverse round this? Solid ground is easier to traverse than up the side of a frozen cliff. Guess not, but it was worth it for the pretty visual and the homage, right? One of Galadriel's men then approaches and says they have had enough and want to end the journey. They mention that she has ignored the wisdom of other commanders, and then we get this bloated line.
How long can living flesh endure where even sunlight fears to tread?
Ugh, I don't know what it is about this show, but so many lines exist just to take up time and tell us something in the most bloated fashion. Or in this case, be straight up confusing, as it contradicts things about this world without even having the care to tell us the new rules. Orcs and creatures of the dark fear sunlight. The less light there is in a location, the more likely you're to find the evil. Why would you say this when you've been questing this long for this purpose? Anyway, I wonder if she will listen to his concerns, even lift his spirits, urge him to keep on going, to tell him we must avoid another catastrophe by dealing with this threat now.
We are losing the light.
Wow, she just completely ignores the concerns of her company. What a selfless paragon she is. I hope this won't be a consistent trait. Who am I kidding? It will be. Next up, we see our band of heroes traversing a treacherous storm, and our paragon of virtue almost leaves a man behind.
Commander! Wait, no!
We keep moving!
Payne and McKay want us to think that this moment, and the moment on the cliffs, show just how driven she is. But they fail to see that it also shows how much of a selfish bint she seems to be also. To her credit, she does stop and throws a cloak on him. How kind, but she had to be shouted at twice beforehand, as though her ears were clogged up with snow. Anyway, she should get them shelter. Hopefully they can find a warm place to...
We are there.
Oh, Lord Aluvita, thank you for delivering us to exactly where we needed to be in the middle of a storm in the middle of nowhere. Fuck off, you incompetent, lazy, inexperienced dullards. Lucky they found it before the storm scattered anyone. Also, if this was their destination, could you not have told us that earlier? Perhaps even given us a name? I mean, she pointed at a map, but I didn't know it was a proper destination. It just looked like squiggly lines done by a 2-year-old. And it does make me wonder, centuries you've been searching. You only just came here now? Where else did you look, you blonde stone-faced bimbo? What has been taking this long? No wonder our elves are sick of this quest. They've likely been wandering aimlessly for centuries. And, wow, they got that close and somehow didn't see it earlier with the lightning or even just seeing it in the distance. Is this going to be a thing? When Galadriel's wrong and causing others to suffer, she's still right because they achieved the objective by some stroke of luck? Convenient that she does not have to face a hardship that could really endear an audience to her. I don't know, by perhaps seeing her struggle in that storm, perhaps fight to keep everyone together. But no, it just appears in front of them. It's easier to do that.
This is it. This is where the orcs gathered after Morgoth's defeat.
Orcs gathered here after Morgoth's defeat, eh? So you know this, Galadriel. How? Did scouts come here before you and deliver this information? We get no answer. It's all up to your own interpretation and headcanon. Fine. Galadriel, you're smart, right? Fair to assume that you know Sauron was last here, seeing as you knew that all the orcs gathered here after old Morgoth was punted into the void. Why didn't you make this your first port of call 200 years ago? Ah, shit! Why wasn't an army sent here first then? If she knew it, then others should have as well. Also, what if the orcs were still here and had fortified this place? What then? This company isn't large enough to kill all these. And even if you get that far, how the fuck are you gonna kill Sauron? Don't worry about it. These are just minor oversights. I'm sure it'll get better. Either way, they are here, there's no one else here, so now what? Galadriel, you've hit a snag. There's no trail. Sauron wouldn't leave any trace of a road to follow. He's probably immortal by now, right? But before we get too caught up in letting our brain holes think, a line is said.
No. This place is so evil, our torches give off no warmth.
Oh no! Fire suddenly doesn't work because this place is so evil. It's too evil for fire to give off warmth. What is this? Also, this elf is a fucking moron. I'm just gonna stick my fist into an open flame. Wouldn't it still burn him even if he can't feel it? Who thought this was a line that you could play off as menacing? That person should be fired out of a cannon, cause damn. The cringe is strong with that one. Guess I was wrong about finding a place that's warm to camp. Cause this place is just too evil. Galadriel punches a wall. She's that strong, by the way, with the most stone-faced expression I've ever seen. Could you try emoting, please? Show me some things take effort for you. Perfect actress for the role. I totally believe her strength. So then we see the wall she punched that somehow didn't break her fist get torn down and lead to a secret room in this fort. How convenient the first wall she punched led to this room they needed to get to for the plot to progress. Typical! In it we see an anvil. Wonder what is being set up here? Better be the forging of the rings. Galadriel then starts telling us what the environment is showing because we're dum-dums that can't figure it out and we need this intelligent show to tell us what occurred here. Environmental storytelling is a thing for this medium, you know, you inexperienced cringe machines. Her companion then rightly points out,
Surely it is lost to the ages now. Whatever happened here was long ago.
and with that, there were no more leads, and they were forced to return home. Oh, look, convenient snowflake reveals fiery mark frosted over, which... fuck's sake, this show's got retarded magic that makes no sense. Fire frosted over, leaving an impression. Makes me wonder how Sauron even leaves these marks. Does he just always carry a branding iron and just starts marking up certain things? Always the artist, right? Wait, that's another fantasy baddie that also leaves symbols with no meaning. Fuck's sake, you're not supposed to copy everything from that show. Also, now I have the image of Sauron being like the Riddler. Riddle me this, Galadriel. What are you making that you cannot see? Why are you acting like this mark is a big surprise and is a major development in your search? You just said Morgoth's orcs gathered here. Logic dictates others would too. This changes nothing about your wild emu chase. And believe me, you aren't catching an emu. Or Sauron. Furthermore, why would Sauron leave a mark for orcs to follow? Didn't he just rally them and take them with him to Mordor or wherever? That's even if she is correct on that. I mean, why would Sauron care about a few stragglers when we saw this image of him overlooking these hordes? He'd probably be happy for the straggler orcs to harass the elves in the lands of peace. But I'll play along for a moment and accept her assumption. In that case, how the hell is this supposed to lead orcs to Sauron? It doesn't point in any direction, it's hidden in a secret room, and this mark is shown to be branded on corpses and weapons. Were the orcs supposed to find Galabro's corpse and this bloody sword and attempt to decipher which direction Sauron went in? Okay, sure. I hope this is merely a stupid assumption and not actually true, because otherwise she's going to be finding lots more branded corpses, anvils, and weapons. Who knows where you'll end up? Her companion wants to go home and rightly points out that going further north aimlessly is stupid and that they should head back to Lindon. Galadriel then says this.
I promise you there is not a soul amongst our company who yearns for home more than I.
Liar!
What a manipulative hag, saying she longs for home more than them when she had the power to take them home and only forces them to continue whenever they say they've had enough with this wild bantha chase.
Like a bantha. Yes?
But fuck it, she's suffering more than them. She then talks about the true trees when that is not what he meant by home, and it only further conveys her selfishness. I sincerely hope this is not going to be a consistent thing with her. It'll make this so much more frustrating. Besides, it's not like they couldn't return to Lindon, try deciphering the symbol's meaning by consulting the wisest of elves. From there, they could then resume their search with a bolstered force, more resources, and maybe even a definitive location to search. But no. Next, we get a snow troll attack, elves fight with bizarre tactics and poses. I mean, what is this? Or they do nothing at all. This troll looks not great. In fact, I'm baffled by how unlike Middle-earth trolls it is. Was there no one who wanted to follow along with Weta's aesthetics? Oh no, she was propelled by a sword into the air. What are you doing, Payne and McKay? This is dense in its stupidity. It is so terrible, and you were proud to show this? Unnecessary flurry, and wow, she was fighting a troll and still no emotion. Emote, you damn statue! This doesn't make you look super cool and badass, it makes you look like you can't act. Also, she turned her back to her opponent and somehow aced the fight all alone. None of the other elves helped. I guess there won't be any struggles for this character. A true Mary Sue, because we needed another of those. She's the bestest elf warrior there ever was, damn it. Through the power of choppy editing, she won. Everyone then turns on her after she kills the troll and force her home, and I find myself siding with the mutineers. I feel they are justified here. And whether the show intended it or not, they have shown this company help each other out while Galadriel leaves them behind. Title sequence at last! Yay, it's already so shit though. Couldn't get any worse, right? The show then introduces us to the Harfoots, which are hobbits. Oh, I know they've said from the start these aren't hobbits, they are Harfoots, but Harfoots are a breed of hobbit. There is no getting around that. It is written in those books, so that is the case. Go fuck yourself with your attempts to legitimize your changes. Besides, you do little to distinguish them. They all emerge after hiding among nature from these people by covering their wagons and huts with plants. Somehow, the babies knew to be quiet enough to not give anyone away during their hiding. And somehow, no one has stumbled into this clearing and found these traces of civilization.
Travelers, at this time of year.
It's an omen, I warrant you.
Travelers being round you this time of year is strange, eh? Why? You're nomads, right? Wouldn't you be used to travelers being around you? If you travel that much, this must be a regular occurrence. But sure, I guess it's an omen. We are then introduced to Nori Brandyfoot, but seeing as they shoehorned hobbits into an era they were not present in, and due to an interesting resemblance to Frodo, I'm calling her Femdo, seeing as she is female Frodo. Femdo leads, Famwise, and some children Harfoots to berries. They all feast like animals and in the messiest of ways, till they're spooked by a warg paw print. I certainly hope these things are far off. It'd be a shame if... Wow. Lucky they left when they did, and that warg didn't pick up their scent. Come on, warg. They're right there. Easy milk, go on. It just needs a little encouragement. Come on, boy. Next, we are introduced to our new Elrond, played by Robert R. Mayo, an actor who portrayed a very good Ned Stark in Game of Thrones Season 6. Hopefully he can nail it with Elrond also.
The Council regrets to inform you, you won't be permitted to attend the next session. Elf Lords only.
Oh, he's not an Elf Lord yet. Okay, that's an interesting choice considering his lineage, but maybe it's different here, like everything else. Never mind, look, we're in Lindon. Look, it's pretty. Don't think, just feel.
Your friend has arrived.
She's here. Why didn't you say so?
She did, you bloody deaf dunce. Those ears aren't just for looks, you know. They're also supposed to be really good. Anyway, before getting to learn anything about this Elrond, look, it's Galadriel again. I wonder who the focus of this scene is going to be. Almost immediately we get Valinor exposition. Wonder if that will be relevant. This show is as subtle as a sledgehammer to the fucking nads.
And look at you now. Commander of the Northern Armies. Warrior of the Wastelands.
Commander of the Northern Armies, huh? Of course. By the way, where are those armies? Maybe she ticked them off too and they deserted. Could hardly blame them. I'd probably join them if this was how my commander spoke.
I've kicked in grime and mud.
This time frostbite and troll blood.
Was that supposed to sound super cool and edgy? Because fuck my life, that was an unnecessary line that tells us the shit we saw not too long ago. And by the way, gotta say this now. I'm not fond of Morfydd Clark's performance thus far. Maybe she's talented in other stuff, but she certainly isn't here. We then get more exposition on shit we already saw, this time regarding the Mark. We haven't even established solid traits in Elrond yet, and we're still focused on her and her obsession with finding Sauron. Gotta say, it is also quite a leap for her to ask for more elves to chase the absent Dark Lord, with no idea where to go other than north. Okay. I'm sure they know he's out there, and have sent other search parties to different fortifications. They must have a plan. But we'll get to that mess later. Elrond tries to caution her against petitioning the king for another company to return to her mission, and then she says this.
Why, Elrond? You really have become a politician.
Then this.
I am not some courtier to be placated by idle flattery. I demand to speak with the king directly.
Oh my god, what a bitch. He's trying to be a mate to her and catch up after all this time, and that's how she treats him at the slightest of deflections from her obsessive corpo-fic mission. Elrond then decides to speak plainly, as she did, and informs her that her stupidity and obsession were what led her elves to turn on her out of loyalty to their king. Again, something that we heard said by those earlier, and something we could have inferred. We get it. Tell us something new, you fuck-knuckled pretenders. Either way, we learn the king is not only going to forgive her insolent, but fucking reward it as well by arranging a ceremony for her and that company of elves. Why? She defied him. She should be punished or ignored for her insolence. Do you not understand how people work, writers? What world do you live in? Alright, California. Anyway, you'd think she'd be grateful that she has been forgiven, right? No, instead we get this.
Are you going to arrange an audience or not?
She ignored everything he said. He just warned her not to piss off the king again, for her own good. Instead of thanking Elrond for the sound advice, she ignores it, gets in his face, and acts all smug. Please stop writing women this way, Hollywood. It is like all these characters have a pass that says they're allowed to be a fucking infantile, bratty child to anyone at any opportunity that they like. I must say that throughout that conversation, I was with Elrond. He was trying throughout that to be reasonable given the information they have on Sauron. Aside from that, something else became clear. We are told they were friends, but it was all one-sided and it only revealed how flat these characters are. There wasn't a single line where I got the impression they've been friends for a long time. There was no laughing at any jokes that they told, nothing like that. And I still don't know anything about these people other than Elrond likes her and considers her a friend, but he's also a politician, and Galadriel is a vengeful warrior princess. That's also smug. Furthermore, another thing that became clear to me watching that scene was there is no underlying meaning or subtext in their dialogue. Everything is explicit. And there isn't anything further that could reveal a trait that is different from the shit that we were just told about them, or the shit that we've already seen. These characters are as flat as can be, and that's not good if you want us to spend a season with them, let alone 5. Anything else to gain about them here? No? Okay. Next, we're back to the halfwits. Fuck it, I'm calling them halfwits. I see lots of vegetables, but they're nomads. Meat would have to be the go-to, because you can move them easier than a huge amount of soil and a huge amount of crops. I mean, where did they even get these crops? There's a fair bit of them. Whatever, they probably stole it from some farmer, which, by the way, if they did, wow. But no answer, so fine. And I'm applying more thought to this than McKay and Payne did. They're veggie hippies. Got it. Femdo explains she wants to explore the world, wondering what's out there beyond our wandering. Why is Nori acting like she's been secluded her whole life? She would have seen plenty and would see more on their nomadic travels. Makes sense for Frodo or Bilbo as they were secluded in the Shire where naught but hobbits roamed. I could buy her wanting to meet the other races and newer people, but if so, that should be implied or said in a way that allows for greater interpretation into her dialogue, rather than contradicting the half-foot nomadic lifestyle. Thanks again, show, for telling the most basic of information in the form of a slap in the face about Femdo and what she's going to be doing. Subtlety would be appreciated. Either way, Mummy Brandycoot says no, stay our path, eat them slugs. Okay, she doesn't say all that, but she does make obvious observations that the writers try to have sound Tolkienian. They fail. Now, I must bring this up. If these halfwits stick to certain paths and certain locations, how has no one found them yet? Fuck's sake, you can't do both, show. Why not just set up villages in these places and stay put? It is far more dangerous for a civilization to travel about rather than choose a place to set up and hold as home. Especially seeing as there are bloody wargs about in this land and so is trolls and orcs. Having a place to defend would probably be a good thing. Furthermore, you don't seem to have a warrior class that would be able to defend you while traveling on the road. You know, something the Mongols had, which is why they were successful and why they lasted. We then see a ceremony honoring the elves, which would be good for sure. How can they possibly— oh my god! You have got to be joking! What the fuck is that paper mache trash they are wearing? It's hideous! It doesn't even look plastic, it looks like painted cardboard. $60 million budget an episode for this? Did they even talk to Weta? Sorry. Back to the writing. Why is Galadriel standing while the rest of her company kneel before their king? Is this some other feminist rule that you can't have a woman bow before a male king? Okay, whatever, put that aside. As a character, is she really that arrogant that she won't even kneel to Gil-galad out of gratitude for his praising of her? No? Well, yes, we'll see a lot more of that shit throughout this show. Anyway, as for Gil-galad, he looks fine. I mean, mostly. He's got the elven long hair and he talks alright, if not a bit monotone. Though, I'm gonna find it hard to believe that this Gil-galad terrifies someone like Sauron, and is one of the best warriors Middle-earth has ever seen.
They will be escorted to the Grey Havens.
Wow, that's quite the honor. But if we were staying true to Tolkien, she is Noldor, therefore she is banned from going to Valinor. But we're not doing that, so this is quite the gift for him to bestow. She should be grateful, right? No, why would she? She's just so driven to get that vengeance on that evil Sauron. Don't believe me? Well, buckle up for an ear-bleeding nightmare these writers thought was a meaningful character-revealing conversation. We find Galadriel in a forest of trees, bearing the visages of dead elves upon them, and she is looking at the one of her dearly departed brother. Elrond then approaches, hoping to celebrate with her, but she can't, and then we get more exposition. Because of course, that is what we needed. Not to have these characters reveal their traits, but describe this image on screen, even though we can all see it. But really, this is to facilitate her thinking she would be dead with all these warriors. Which, cheers. Cheers, you just keep driving that knife right into this character's heart. This is not Galadriel. Elrond tries to lift her spirits and bring light to the dark mood that she has set. But this vile imposter with the emotional complexity of a doorknob announces that she intends to refuse the gift that Gil-galad gave her, and that she will pursue the enemy that escaped them in the north. What does that mean? I don't know. She wasn't close to getting the enemy from what we saw. There was no solid trail. Not even an orc showed up. Elrond then brings up her sigil and informs her he did hand it over to Gil-galad. And before she can question as to why she is still being sent to Valinor, Elrond says this.
Just seeing a sigil does not mean you're any closer to finding Sauron.
Yes! Thank you! Someone said it to her. He's right, of course, because this sigil points to nowhere, has been found in many places, and while it is proof Sauron is out there, well done Galadriel, him being north, where she says she'll look, is so vast an area that'll probably cause her to spend another 200 years searching aimlessly. Perhaps now, that truth can be struck home and she will be forced to consider the cost of her insane quest. Maybe even reevaluate a few things. This might bring out more than the one-note fuckery of this disaster of a character thus far. But then, because of course victories are short-lived against Galadriel, we get this howler of an exchange.
The evil is gone.
Then why is it not gone from in here?
You have got to be fucking kidding me. That is her response. Rather than face the fucking reality, she opts to use some emotional rat droppings to try and justify her stupid hunt with no leads. In what dimension does her feeling evil in her heart justify putting others at risk? It does not make her sound like an overly emotional fuckwit that really needs to move on at all, does it? Elrond then shows sympathy to her and calls her conflicted, and we get this response.
Conflicted? I am grateful you have not known evil as I have.
What the fuck are you talking about? You lost one brother. That's it. You selfish, blank-faced, arrogant, narcissistic hag. You have the gall to say that after once again he is trying to help you move on and do the healthy thing. How about you deal with Sauron when you actually have a lead? Ugh, how are we supposed to like this arrogant mannequin?
But you have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
What the hell was that? That was some of the worst dialogue these ears have ever had the displeasure of suffering through. She turns how much evil she has seen into a fucking competition and is so eager to be proven right about how much more she has suffered that she'll say stupid, ignorant garbage like that? And twice? That was so unbelievably childish. For two people supposed to have lived centuries, or in her case, close to 1,000 years, what an insult to these characters, Tolkien, and all of us. They thought that absurd exchange was good enough to put in fucking trailers. And they kept it in this show, despite everyone pointing out how poor it is. This exists just to denigrate Elrond and prop her up, because he doesn't fucking respond back, because it probably would just evolve into, no you didn't, yes I did, no you didn't. Boy, this is rough to get through. He then follows along with her assumptions about Sauron and asks whether seeking him will satisfy her, and... oh, fuck. If one more orc upon the point of her blade will bring her peace. Fucking hell. This is what they chose to turn Galadriel into. Just gender swap her at this point. She's no elegant and kind-hearted woman that she was in every other adaptation or depiction. Ugh. He then asks what if she is wrong, and of course she says she isn't, but then he explains she'll be leading more elves into far-off lands to die, and how many must before she'll stop being this? Gotta say, didn't like how we got here, but those are great questions that she should try to answer honestly. He even appeals to her own future and warns her she could become an outcast and be left alone in Middle-earth, never to return to Valinor if she rejects it this time. He is trying, but she deflects again, saying her fate in Valinor would not be any different, and continues on to say this.
I have won victory over all the horrors of Middle-earth. Yet you would leave them alive in me.
Ugh. He's not doing that. He has no control over what's in your heart. Elrond continues to have the patience of a saint, because I would have ceased caring about her fate and tell her, you get no more elves, you want to chase Sauron into the fucking snows of the north, off you go, I'm done with you. But he doesn't. Instead, he lets her drone on, so we can all suffer this ear rape that these writers thought was dialogue. Elrond then tells her heart will be healed. He swears to deal with Sauron and that she should put up her sword. And then we get this fucking line.
Without it, what might it be?
The answer would be a better character, perhaps even something closer to the awe-inspiring figure from the films or books. This is a slap in the face to all fans of the movies and the books, because this was never what Galadriel was. She wasn't defined by her sword. She was defined by something greater than that. Traits unique among all the races of Middle-earth. Her wisdom, her intelligence, her perception, and her kindness were what made her who she is, and why I am outraged at this insult to this great character who rose others up when they needed it most. Go fuck yourself, Payne, McKay, Weber, and especially Amazon. I hope that every room you enter barefooted, your feet land upon stray Lego blocks.
You have always been my friend.
Brilliant response, Elrond. Why doesn't anyone feel like a person? These people used to have character in other things. Why would this be his response? Couldn't you say something else? How can so much be said and still we know so little about these people and the thinnest amount of plot has progressed? Anyway, we get an introduction to our final storyline, and it is of another original character. But fuck it, at this point, even the ones with familiar names are original corpo fix as well. Meet Arondir. Arondir? Whatever. Our elf of colour. We are soon introduced to his love interest, Bronwyn, and we can tell they are into each other quite a bit, just by their looks. There's a bit of talking that happens, I care so little about what happens here. And then we get to the interesting part. Elf racism!
Oh, let it go, knife is.
Knife is. Odd to see this in Middle-earth. I mean, Eastlings have always had a dislike of elves, but I've certainly never seen this in anything Middle-earth. I mean, where did this even come from? Oh, right, modern writing. To be expected, I guess, but I have to wonder what the relationship between elves and humans here even is. The reaction is just so out of the blue, and I'm lost, especially seeing as Arondir saves the racist from being punched. I mean, good on him, but I have to wonder which elves are treating these people poorly to warrant this kind of reaction. Because right now it doesn't seem justified. Romance is then in the air, and I just don't care. These two have a forbidden love and really look like they want to get up to some lovemaking right there by that well. Was expecting some insight into why they love each other, but Arondir then returns to his elf companion and listen to this comedic dialogue.
I think you talk too much. And you smell of rotten leaves.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Tolkien, Jackson, Boyance, step aside. You all got nothing on this. Fucking hell, how often are you going to have dialogue like this? Only this time it's played for comedy, as it should be, but this is the kind of comedy I'm not even sure the lowest brow comedian would even touch. We then get some more dialogue explaining the forbidden love. I get it, show. I'm watching. I'm listening. I know. I don't need you telling me about what's happened on the screen again. Please stop it. I'm begging you. I just want dialogue that could have been spoken by actual people. Also, I'm glad Beren and Luthien wasn't mentioned, even if they were alluded to. I might have karate chopped my desk in half and broke my arm in fury.
All the fire outposts are being disbanded.
We're leaving.
The elves are leaving their posts by order of Gil-galad, eh? Why? It might be worth keeping those posts active. After all, Sauron is still out there. It can't hurt to keep them. And, oh, fuck! Okay, we'll get there eventually, but I know what this means. This is indicative of how the elves view Sauron's existence, isn't it? They just think he's not a problem. Okay, we're gonna put a pin in that one. We'll come back to this later. Right now, what really matters is that the forbidden love is in jeopardy. Oh, my heart breaks for them. We were shown so much about their relationship.
Oh no. Anyway.
On to the proper story now, please. We are soon introduced to a racist elf, calling the people they watch over evil still for siding with Morgoth centuries ago. I mean, I get it, this elf was probably there and fought these people, but damn, they've been peaceful for some time. Let it go, you knife-eared racist, discount Richard E. Grant. Oh, Lotor, you portrayed Division so much better than this. Also, Elf, you do realize that all those people that sided with Morgoth are dead, right? So you have no reason to hate those people. Is this supposed to be evidence as to why they hate elves? Because this fuckwit of an elf is around?
79 years you've kept watch over the men and women of Tir Harad.
Oh, and... wow. This place is called Tir Harad, and is supposed to be a place for the Haradrim. Okay then, where are they? None of these people look like the Harad. Oh, damn you fucking hacks! You had an opportunity to portray that interesting culture and expand upon it, and have as many dark-skinned people as you could want here. But instead, you race-swapped elves, born in a time when there was no sun, and dwarves, who rarely leave their caves. But no, we can't have the fucking Harad as they are, because they joined Sauron later. Damn, imagine what a good Second Age story showing the Harad's perspective could be like. You could have a story about how their kings and chiefs were deceived and corrupted into joining Sauron. Perhaps we could see how Sauron did it. Maybe even follow someone in this culture trying to foil Sauron's schemes, or those of his enthralled servant Camel, who would eventually become a Nazgul. We could see internal strife among the Harad as they tried to navigate this corrupting evil. Further, we could see their perspective clearly as to why they hate the men of the West and the elves, and have it be more complex than just, oh, you elves won't let the past go. But fuck all that potential. Instead, we have a place called Tir Harad with people that look nothing like the Haradrim and a shitty racism allegory. Fuck, another missed opportunity. That should be the name of this show, by the way. Rings of Missed Opportunities. Better title than The Lord of the Rings of Power. Seriously, Amazon. They delivered this title to you and you thought that, yeah, this will be fantastic. This will be the new Game of Thrones. Shame you didn't account for House of the Dragon, you smooth-brained goblin. Oh, there was an intro to Bronwyn's son, Theo. It then leads into more forbidden love shit. Conveniently, after they talk to each other, someone shows up to have a cow inspected that is sick. Arandir examines the cow and it's oozing black goo from its udders for some reason. Again, it's another show invention, and it's only here to lead us into a journey that gets us to the next village.
Where are you going?
Holden's a day's journey. If I leave now, I can reach it by dusk.
I'm going with you.
Wow. Don't even want to say goodbye to your kid. No? Okay. As a result, her son goes to steal a broken sword with the racist we saw earlier. Oh, and it's an evil Sauron sword, 'cause reasons. It has the symbol again. I'm telling you guys, Daddy Morgoth didn't let Sauron play with the branding iron. Now that he's gone, Sauron wants to brand everything. He's a fucking menace, I tell ya. Next, we got Galadriel and company heading for Valinor. Guess she was convinced after all. By the way, why they pose like that? Is there no underlevel where they can rest? Maybe eat some lambus bread, talk about all the good times, maybe some of the bad times journeying together. Ah, fuck it, they think them posing looks cool, so we can't do that. And also, why must they be wearing that abortion of a drug addict's attempt at crafting armor from the trash they found in a dumpster? I hate this armor. I want to smash it apart with a sledgehammer and throw it off the bloody Westgate. We then have a scene with Elrond and Gil-galad, and we get yet another retarded line.
Saw that she might have inadvertently kept alive the very evil she sought to defeat.
Huh? What the fuck are you talking about? How does that work? You Muppets do know Sauron is out there and is an external force, not an internal one. He isn't corrupting hearts and minds yet.
Shadow she sought. You believe it does exist.
Set your mind at peace about it.
Oh, how does this keep getting worse? No, seriously, how is every single line so easy to rip into and indicative of how stupid these damned cardboard cutouts supposed to be characters are? I said we would get there eventually, and we have! So let's begin. They do know Sauron's out there, but Gil-galad, fucking Gil-galad, is made to look like a duplicitous serpent trying to stop anyone from being wary over Sauron. If you know he's out there, and you're telling people to block it from their minds, what are you doing, you bad Halloween costume? You have disbanded the outposts instead of keeping them active to report of any signs of orcs. You have ignored Galadriel's find and decided to conclude that she will bring Sauron forth, so she has to go. But it might be worth letting her go on her mad quest to cause Sauron to strike earlier if he has lesser numbers. Oh, I also find it odd that you don't even have people looking into this matter at all regarding researching that symbol. Having elves scour every library in Middle-earth. At least have fortifications built up to prepare for his eventual coming. Have troops trained daily to make ready for combat. But fuck it. It really does seem as though these elves are just sitting on their hands in ignorance. Then again, we barely know what anyone thinks of all this because we never focus on it before the conversation turns to some other less important drivel. This is horrendous that Gil-galad knows and is doing nothing, and worse, actively lessening their chances for success. They're all idiots. I know why, because it's to lift that infuriating, resting, bitch-faced mannequin Galadriel up as the only one who is willing to do something to stop the coming darkness. Cause you must tear down the intelligence of others to raise up your shitty corpo-thick Mary Sue. And worse, this is Gil-galad, an elf known for being the first to caution people about Anatar, aka Sauron, and known for establishing Lindon as a major military stronghold that was eventually used to repel Sauron's forces and protect all who fled there. You're telling me that guy, the most vigilant of all elves, isn't preparing? Go fuck yourself. I hope everyone involved in this trash forever has smelly breath like the Harfoots.
It's hard to see what is right when friendship and duty are mingled.
Elrond, stop being such a baby. You did the right thing. She was clearly heading for an open grave. You might have even saved her. you mullet-haired simpleton.
To that end, are you acquainted with the work of Lord Celebrimbor?
Alright, finally, Celebrimbor is mentioned. At last, something that could be Tolkienian, the Ringmaker, the most important character in the Second Age. The elf represented mostly well in Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. It's not fantastic, and it's clearly not lore accurate, but the game does adapt some Second Age material rather well, and amps up Celebrimbor into a powerful warrior who resisted Sauron in his own right, and then suffered a dark fate. What I'm trying to say is this character is ripe with potential to expand upon, and I cannot wait to see how Amazon represents... Fuck's sake, that's him! These two versions couldn't be further removed from each other, and really, an elf, a being supposed to hold onto their youth even after thousands of years, and you don't even touch up and make this actor look younger. He could do a good job perhaps, but how much more characteristics are you going to strip away from these elves? At least the memes are proving to be more accurate. By the way, he was just there waiting for his cue to enter. On the bright side, at least now we have some progression towards the story we're here for, but we're still not getting the rings for some time, are we? 'Cause no Anatar yet. For fuck's sake, we're an hour in, and very little has progressed to lead us to the title of the show. This should be Celebrimbor's story right now. He should be our main so that when we get to a certain moment with him, we can feel very heartbroken by what happens to this poor elf. He has probably one of the most tragic stories in all of Tolkien's works. But they chose original characters and this boring trite. Getting lots of detours, and I know the breaking of canon has only just begun. I see you, Numenor. You're going to be as bad as proto-hobbits, aren't you? Speaking of proto-hobbits, we get Lenny Henry looking at a book that has some prophecy in the sky. Apparently the skies are strange, and we needed a full scene dedicated to this. Just to tell me, once again, Nori is curious. Cheers. I get it. It's just more time-wasting stuff, so I'm not going to waste your time with it. Next up, more artificial drama, this time with the lovers, and more of their hollow romance, where we can tell they're attracted to each other, but I still don't know why they love each other. Then, before we get more dialogue, here comes a burning village. Can't wait to see what happens. By the way, wouldn't they have seen the smoke earlier? Fuck it, guess everyone in Rings of Power is half blind, eh? We're then back to, Galadriel. And they're still in that fucking armor, in that fucking pose. What a joke. But no one's laughing. Instead, we're driven to the brink of madness with this cat piss. Elves by their side start to remove their armor and weapons. Makes me wonder why they wore that trash in the first place. Galadriel resists giving up Galabro's knife because it's a nice knife. But eventually she does. And they drag this shit out for so bloody long. You hear the choir, you see the curtains open up that are clouds. Then we cut to everyone seeing a comet fly across the sky. Their reactions are very plain. That's a comet, everyone. Emote, please. Very Game of Thrones of you, Amazon. You're totally not envious of HBO, are you? Wonder how that new House of the Dragon show is, by the way. Then we're back to Valinor's entrance. Honestly, all I wanted was for her to fuck off. Leave the show. I'll take focusing on Elrond, Celebrimbor, Gil-galad. Fuck it. I'll even accept the filthy hobbitses called Harfoots. Just get rid of this insufferable, blank-faced, arrogant, selfish bitch they tried to sell us as Galadriel. Fucking leave! She chooses to... Oh, I can't. I'm sorry, I'm going to... She chooses to leap off the ship and swim away. Fuck my existence on this floating rock we call Earth. We have 7 more episodes of this blank-faced, arrogant bore that exists to denigrate the real Galadriel. I mean, what is her plan here? Swim 400 miles across the ocean back to Middle-earth? she'd be fucking dead! And she better remember exactly what direction she came in, because for all you know, warrior princess, you could end up in the real Harad. Oh look, Evil Leaf, how'd it get there? Who knows, the writers certainly don't. We at last get the final scene. We have a man lying in a crater caused by the comet, and it looks like an Eye of Sauron. At least that's what they want us to think. And then, credits. Alright, I'm done. That was a fucking nightmare. Since the first snippets of marketing, we knew what we were in for. They made it clear they did not care about even trying to adapt Tolkien faithfully. But at least they could have delivered a decent show. They failed on that front too. This episode was filled with some of the most inane and insufferable dialogue I have ever had the displeasure of hearing. And this is supposed to be a Lord of the Rings show, following a trilogy that had excellent characters and dialogue. The characters in this pit of stupidity all ranged from thin to straight up terrible. The biggest crime for us Tolkien fans is the perversion of poor Galadriel into this strong female warrior who don't bow to no man. They turned a character I respected and was fascinated with into someone I roll my eyes at or groan in frustration at. Notice no sign of Celeborn, the person closest to her, but it seems they don't want him to be in the way of this strong warrior. Also, poor guy if he's forced to deal with this twat for an eternity. I'd rather cut my ears off than listen to her whine at me forever. All the elves have been stripped away of all that made them special and unique. There is no ageless, ethereal look to them anymore. I mean, we have bloody elderly elves now. And let's not even get into how stupid every elf is made to look to prop up their Galadriel. Makes me wonder how many more times Elrond and others are going to be denigrated. What a fucking joke. It'd almost be funny if it weren't so pathetic. It's clear we're not getting the story of this prologue from Fellowship, or the one represented in these flashbacks from Shadow of Mordor. We're getting a corpofic that wants to represent an ideology rather than an engaging and well-crafted narrative. But aside from that aspect, this is just terribly written. You writers should be bloody ashamed of the work you put out. You wrote something that is terrible, even divorced from insulting Middle-earth. I don't even think if this show did follow the source faithfully, it would be any better. Because these fools fail at even the most basic of storytelling techniques, and they do not trust their audience. This show is, and is going to be, a dumpster fire of insane proportions based on this episode alone. There was so much wrong here that I could barely keep up, and for sure, I missed a lot. Amazon, I know it's too late right now for season 1. It's done. You can't do anything about that. But to get back your investment in this, $1 billion, you have to fire everyone. Clean house. Every producer, every writer, costume department, fucking cleaning guy, doesn't matter. Get rid of everyone. Better pilots have been scrapped and have never seen the light of day. You can hide as many reviews as you like. You can claim that 1 billion people watched for all I care. I'm gonna call you out. Because what you made is garbage of the highest order. There's not just an insult to Tolkien, but to fucking intelligence in general. You asshats made this, and you can blame everyone you want. Call your critics racist, call them sexist, call them man babies, deranged fanboys, whatever fucking insult you want to throw at us. It won't change the fact that you made this bed with your inane decisions and marketing. Now you can fucking lie in it and face the consequences of releasing this sludge onto people's screens. Because all you have done is release yet another piece of trash television, not uncommon in this era of entertainment. No amount of trickery or deception is going to hide the truth of what you have done. Amazon and all of your smear merchant allies, go fuck off back to the chasm from whence you came. I'll see you for episode 2, you cunts.